Can you talk about splitting?
Oh, good. Okay,
Uh,
yes. Let's
uh,
talk about splitting.
mhm,
Can you maybe just give me, in your mind, in a very simple way, what's an example of splitting? What does that mean? It's a
mhm.
complicated concept. Let's kick it off and then I'll jump in, okay?
Okay, so this is a bit of an overlap because a lot of people with BPD have told me the exact same feeling. So I
Hmm.
think people that are narcissistic feel very similar to people who are BPD when it comes to just splitting specifically.
Yes.
So during breakups, I've noticed this the most during breakups, where they will literally go from liking their partner to completely turning them into like this terrible ex
Uh-huh.
in the span of minutes.
Yes. Yeah, it's like black and white thinking,
Yeah,
right?
it's
That's
like
another way they describe it.
yeah.
Okay. So I think that's a very, very astute observation you made, which I don't
Mhm.
hear enough, which
Okay.
is there's overlap between
Uh,
BPD and MPD,
mhm,
right? And so again, different theories on this, but one
mhm,
theory says
mhm,
that the core structure of both of these personalities is the
mhm,
same. They
mhm,
both have a fragmented personality.
mhm,
So even people with narcissistic personality have a fragmented sense of self. In
mhm,
other words, there's not that integration that I mentioned earlier. Remember I said you
mhm,
need that integration. We called it what? Object constancy.
mhm,
So you don't typically see the splitting
mhm,
in the narcissist as much because they have that grandiose structure that I mentioned earlier.
mhm,
The grandiose structure is I don't care. It's that dismissive attachment. It's the
mhm,
illusion of perfection. And
mhm,
that holds them together, right? Until it doesn't. And then when it doesn't, like the example of, like you just said, if there's some what hurt or something happens in a relationship, we can
mhm,
even use the same examples just to be consistent. The woman that wants to join the sorority, she's
mhm,
completely elated. She thinks there's going to be this magical union between her and the perfect sorority,
mhm,
right? But she doesn't get her bid to her sorority of choice, and
mhm,
she collapses. The woman looking forward to date night, she's anticipating something, and then there's an affective misalignment. The boyfriend shows up late, or he's looking somewhere else, etc., etc. Okay, then you see a collapse, and that's the splitting. Then all of a sudden, you said in your example, right? They go from loving
mhm,
to hating, right?
mhm.
Am I getting this right? So from
Yes,
loving to
yes.
hating.
Hearing, yeah.
So this couples nicely with where I wanted to speak a little bit about technique in terms of how I
Okay.
work with this.
Mhm,
So when working with this, it's really important to keep in mind, I'm just using a little bit of language. When somebody is splitting,
mhm,
they are what's called dysregulated.
mhm,
So what's dysregulated mean? Many different ways to look at dysregulating, but there's heightened arousal. When there's
mhm,
heightened arousal,
mhm,
capacity for symbolic thinking goes down. So when symbolic thinking goes down,
mhm,
all you typically see are accusations, attack, and this is splitting. It's
mhm,
all this. You're always late. You're always looking at somebody else when we go out. You never want to hug me.
mhm,
It's right. So affect is high, affective arousal is high,
mhm,
the capacity to think goes down, and
mhm,
you're flooded with thoughts.
mhm,
Now, thoughts are different than thinking.
mhm,
Thoughts are typically persecutory in nature. And what I mean by that is they're critical, they're judging, right? Like, you're a loser, you
mhm,
know, you're, I don't know, you can fill in the blank. When they go on the attack,
mhm,
they're judging, right?
mhm,
And this could change, by the way, when then they start attacking themselves. Narcissists are very, very judgmental. They
mhm,
judge themselves and they feel constantly judged, right?
mhm,
And there's a reason for that, but that's for part two of this. Okay, we don't want to go down that road. So they're in an aroused state, the goal
Mm-hmm.
is bring them to help them get regulated.
Hmm.
So they're dysregulated, they're attacking, they're accusing, or they're being attacked in their own mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, why were you late for the date? You're such a, you're this, you're that. And then they may switch and say, well, maybe I'm not, maybe you didn't care about me. What's wrong with me? Right now they're attacking themselves. I'm
Right.
bad. I can't, like this woman who didn't get the bid to her sorority, suddenly it's like, am I awkward? Am I socially inept? Like, what's wrong with me? It switches very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So the first goal is to help them bring this down so that we can turn thoughts, which are persecutory, into productive thinking.